Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Kerala Blockchain Academy. Myself, Adarsh, I'm the convener of Kerala Blockchain Academy. Today, we have the session by Mr. Pau on the topic Lessons Learned Setting Up a B3i Corda node. So, speaker Mr. Pau, who is a blockchain DevOps engineer at Allianz Technology. He is currently the part of the Global Blockchain Center of Competence in Allianz Technology, which promotes many different blockchain use cases in the insurance sector, specializing in this Hyperledger Fabric and R3 Corda. Thank you so much to all the participants. Over to you, Pau. We can start the session. Thank you.
Welcome, everyone. First of all, thank you to Kerala Blockchain Academy for hosting me this webinar online learning series, which is actually a very good initiative during these pandemic times. I hope everyone stays safe and well. And yeah, and that's it. So as I said, the introduction done by KBA was pretty accurate. I'm a DevOps engineer, actually. I'm here telling you about a little bit of lessons learned of what we learned within Allianz about how setting up a B3i Corda node, which is what I'm going to talk about today. So this is the agenda. Basically, I will introduce a little bit myself, just a little bit more deeper than actually what KBA has already done. Next, we will define what is actually B3i for those of the people that actually don't know what is B3i, the initiative. Also, we will have a little bit of introduction about what is the Corda blockchain network. Finally, we will deep dive once we have all the previous introductions made on B3i and Corda. We will have the actual lessons learned, like tips, what we actually experience during setting up these and participate in these blockchain networks. And finally, once I finish, then we can have a quick Q&A. So first, who am I? So basically, this is me, and I'm Pau. Basically, I'm a blockchain DevOps engineer right now in Allianz Technology, but actually, my journey through blockchain has been a little bit accidental, what I would say, but basically it's just been what is so far. So I started as an internship in software as a software developer in Barcelona. That's where I came from. That's actually where I am. Once I completed my internship and my university degree, then I evolved into a DevOps engineer after completing the internship in a company called IT Now, which is a joint venture between a Spanish bank, CaixaBank, and IBM. That happened in Barcelona, in Spain. During that time, I accidentally stepped into blockchain while being the DevOps engineer for 3 years. And also because it was one of the first use cases that the company ever faced, I accidentally also led the blockchain practice in that company in IT Now. And after these 3 years, since 1 year ago, in April last year, I moved to Munich in Germany just to join Allianz Technology in the Global Blockchain Center of Competence in Allianz Technology, which is basically aims to gather all the initiatives and use cases that we, Allianz Technology, well, Allianz as a group, we have, and also we try to focus all the initiatives within Allianz Technology. So my project experience is basically, right now, I am currently implementing architectures for blockchain-based use cases in the insurance sector, basically that in Allianz Technology. In the past, in the projects, I also had lead DevOps engineer roles. In one of the use cases in Spain, it was actually one of the first national banking consortium on blockchain use case. That was one of the first at national level. I also studied in one of the first teams in the private banking cloud journey and transformation project. Basically, the bank was actually doing legacy technologies, and actually they wanted to move to a new cloud technologies that actually get more faster. And then also during my internship, I participated in different data center migration projects, which gathered me a little bit broad of what the technologies landscape are actually using in the banking and the insurance sector. So after it, I will just explain what is B3i, because actually this is quite pretty new. So basically, so B3i is actually a consortium made of insurers. But basically, the shareholders and participants of this consortium, which I will explain later from the insurance sector, they believe that the new technologies can give end consumers of the insurance sector better and faster access to the insurance. And so B3i was born and actually is aimed to do a better insurance industry by developing standards, protocols, and network infrastructure to remove friction in risk transfer. So what does this mean? Just basically, the B3i's participants believe that the new technologies can give the consumers of insurance better and faster access to insurance. And also, by acting together, not separately, the insurance market can optimize and automate market-wide processes, generating significant savings in time and costs that cannot be achieved by insurance and intermediaries acting alone. Thus, this B3i consortium was born, which focuses on implementing the implementation on these new technologies, for example, blockchain, which is the main focus of B3i, but not for the only one company of insurance. Instead, we aim it for the whole insurance sector. So actually, who is now participating in the B3i? Basically, there is more than 40 companies involved in B3i as shareholders, customers, and community members. As we can see on the picture, there is basically the insurance sector is basically all around. We Allianz also participate as a shareholder in the B3i consortium. And basically, it covers all insurance, but it's globally in the world. As you can see, we have insurance companies in Europe, in Asia, in South America, and so on. We cover mostly all the parts of the world. Basically, B3i was incorporated in 2018 and is 100% owned by 20 insurance market participants around the world. So actually, B3i is co-owned by most of the insurance companies of these worlds, and actually they gather all the insurance companies, insurance, reinsurance, and brokers all together and participate and collaborate together in order to achieve the B3i's objectives, which are mainly the following. So what are the core principles of B3i? So basically, the vision of B3i, and I quote, is like better insurance enabled by frictionless risk transfer. B3i's vision basically is to see that the insurance market deliver better solutions for the end customer, and also through faster access to insurance, but with less administrative cost. So basically, what we do here is we create software applications for the participants of the network, which provide them with a variety of solutions accessible through the blockchain network. The development of these applications will help to reduce friction across the value chain that improves the quality of the data, which normally that the data in the insurance market is very important, is very precious, and normally the market is so reliant on. These applications normally are built on DLT, which is like the distributed ledger technology, which is sometimes also referred as blockchain, obviously. This not only offers efficiencies in existing business processes, but we also catalyze the development of new and innovative business models that actually these DLT technologies, when you incorporate in your business use case, and actually can motivate you to create new business opportunity. And so the other one, the mission, is basically, as I said, like create a DLT-based network through the adoption of a standardized systems and protocols, which enable the market to optimize the processes and capital allocation to generate significant cost savings with a variety of integrated applications. So basically, the insurance value chain is designed to link capital with risk. But normally, when insurers, brokers, reinsurers, and others participate in the flow, this capital over the time, normally there are the data gaps that emerge. and the transactions that happen between them, normally they have some inconsistencies, especially with the reinsurance process, which normally have some issues like non-integrated processes, a lack of a standardization on the data models, poor audit trails normally, and also asymmetric information between the participants that actually this led to high dependency on error-prone manual processes. But when you enable DLT technologies on that, the visibility of this risk you normally spread throughout all the network, and so you share the data, and the real time and the transactions are based on real time, so that everyone sees all the same data at the same time. The most important thing here is that reconciliations is significantly reduced, if not removed whatsoever. But also with that, the results are in greater efficiency, transparency, contract certainty, and accelerated payments. So what is the B3i methodology? Basically, data is the most important thing on the insurance industry, but normally the legacy products and processes and technologies degrade this data, and the burden that actually contributes when you have these degraded data increments, and normally to unacceptable levels. And the other thing is, like, when you are doing this, also your data is exponentially growing, complexity, and also in volume. So you have two issues going on here. So normally with that, the proposal is to build distributed ledger technology that can eliminate the duplication of data across application systems and parties, and also the friction generated by these duplications and degradation of quality of the data. And DLT, as we all know, provides a single source of truth, which removes the need for traditional data transformation and integration. So actually the blockchain helps us to deliver this single source of truth. The DLT also guarantees that everyone sees an undisputable single view of shared data, which eliminates these error-prone processes that normally the legacy products tend to introduce. And these shared applications normally address common industry problems. Provides a platform for individual participants to execute their digital transformation strategies, not only as individually, but also as a sector. And so to conclude a little bit of what has B3i done with the application. So on September 2019, the first application developed by B3i was launched into the market. It's based for the reinsurance in the form of catastrophe excess of loss product, which is one of the most complex insurance and reinsurance contracts that actually exist on the reinsurance sector. And actually, we achieved last year altogether that by the end of 2019, we announced that 30 contracts of reinsurance have been concluded on this platform. Basically the ones that the catastrophe excessive loss reinsurance treaties, which was managed by most of the members of the B3i consortium. So next is what is Corda. I will make an introduction about what is Corda, because actually the DLT platform that B3i is building is based on B3i Corda. And so I will give a brief introduction of what is Corda. So Corda is an open source blockchain platform that its main focus is that it enables business to transact directly and in strict privacy using smart contracts. In Corda, they call it Corda apps. And thus, this leads to a reduced transaction and record-keeping costs, and normally streamlining business operation using the DLT platform. Corda was mainly designed to only share data with relevant parties, not like the public blockchains that we all know of, like Bitcoin or Ethereum. Normally, you share the data with your who you want to share the data. And also this gives us to be the Corda platform to be flexible and scalable, and it ensures while ensuring the highest level of privacy and security. So that's what one of the main features. And so what is the Corda main difference about doing that? So basically we can find there's 5 tweets for Corda that actually differentiates within the most public blockchains that we know, and also to other private, like such as Hyperledger. But basically, one of the core features is privacy. Unlike permissionless blockchain networks, basically Bitcoin and Ethereum, transaction data in Corda stays between the parties on Corda and also is private and secure. That is one of the main features that normally on the what we call Corda is like the enterprise blockchain. It's one of the most worrying things about the business, that the data that is transacted there stays secure and private. And one of the main aims of Corda is actually dealing with this. Also enables interoperability. The business that interact within the network are able to transact directly, perfectly and securely. That's why all versions that actually Corda are releasing, which we already on version 4.5, I think, can interoperate each other on the Corda network. And this is a good thing because actually everyone is able to transaction whatever their version of Corda it is. Also, it's very flexible and agile. The platform itself is flexible and also scales to meet business needs. You can start on Corda open source, which is actually everyone's available to interact and deploy its Corda apps that they can develop on their own. But then when the business needs evolves and you actually need more features, more privacy needs, and also all of this, you can actually migrate easily to enterprise as the business needs evolve. Another thing is like the open design. The Corda is an open source platform. So openness is rooted as collaborative group of firms that basically the main aim is for the insurance and financial services, basically, work to deliver a blockchain suitable for any business. And finally, it's open source, and also the community that is backed by the Corda open source is robust, and developers works on enhancement, adding features every time, functionality, and more. So actually, one of the main feats of Corda is actually the Corda network. I will play the video here. That's actually, yeah. So basically, the Corda network, which is actually something that is very called on the, that is one of the main features of Corda network as itself, is the Corda network, which is an underlying network which provides a common layer of services like identity and consensus across the business network. So Corda itself, the Corda Foundation, has available some basic services such as an identity mapper and consensus services that your node can join and participate, and you can only focus on the development of your Corda apps and the development of your business use cases, and then most things like identity and consensus are dealt with in Corda. And also leveraging this unique privacy model, it's actually one of the few networks that does it like this way. You can transact openly and flawlessly with all of their business partners by joining to this Corda big network, without trapped assets or islands of information. But every time you can also select which of the participants you want to transact. That's actually up to you. So how is that Corda network look like? So this is a little bit high level. So the participants, they join their nodes, like here, like here we have 3 participants that is backed by a firewall. And then through the internet, they can all transact securely. But Corda network provides some layer, what we call Corda Foundation services, which actually are provided to you once you join to the network, which consists of an identity operator, which actually is a root issuer of identities that are available across the network. A network map that actually maps the identities generated by this identity operator to the nodes, which actually impersonate the participant with the legal identity of their node. And finally, the notary services, which is like the consensus, the ordering service that prevents double spend. It's not proof of work. It's highly scalable. Also, when you normally join within a business network operator, the business network operator introduces a node itself, which actually performs administrative functions that are needed, such as membership management, software updates, and signaling important events. But normally BNO is not involved, the business network operator is not involved in the transaction of the business use case. It's like kind of like a supportive node that actually helps with the well-being of the network. And finally, you can use also the use of oracles, which actually provides some off-chain data that actually some of the use cases might need it, and actually that is also available in the Corda network. So that overall makes the entire Corda network available. And so finally, what actually moves the transactions within the Corda network are the Corda apps. The Corda apps is what we call smart contracts, but that's the way they call it in Corda, which is the Corda distributed applications that run on the Corda platform. And basically, the goal of the Corda app is to allow nodes to reach agreement or updates to the ledger with other entities. And so they update the ledger at the same time with the counterparties that are involved in the transaction. Normally, these Corda apps are installed in the Corda nodes that are interested in participating in the transactions, and both all the parties that are interested in participating need to have the same Corda apps installed at the same time. So basically, this is the overall version of how Corda app interacts. There's the node, the API interacts with the node, and actually the Corda app starts what they call the flow. The flow is actually the one that is in charge of coordinating all the Corda nodes that actually have the same Corda app call, and such that they build a transaction, they sign the transaction, and also they check for Oracle needs for the notary that actually notarizes and validates that the transactions are correct and not presenting any double spending on the DLT. And so finally, once everything is passed correctly, then the vault actually records the transaction that these Corda apps are generating. And finally, the ledger is updated, and so the DLT can move on. So basically, after having these first brief introductions on B3i and Corda, now we can I can share with you what does an installation look like, and also what is like the main pains, like we could say the pains or the main difficulties that that within an enterprise can have on once some big enterprise, just like Allianz or some other enterprise that has some business needs that needs to be developed on blockchain. Normally there is some difficulties or challenges that need to take on, but also other benefits that we can leverage to use. So within Corda, I have to admit that things can be quite complicated. The Corda architecture is not very simple. It's quite big. First of all, because it's a distributed systems application, architecture, sorry. And actually, just for installing one node within the enterprise architecture, it can be quite complicated. So you can start with your node. Actually, you implement it, basically you can put it in the cloud or on premises. Normally, because as I said, on B3i or on other blockchain networks, you want to expose this node to the internet. And it's sometimes very tricky to expose financial data over the internet, and actually you have to protect it quite easily, quite hardly when you expose it these types of nodes and systems on the internet. So Corda was developed something that is called Corda Firewall. This is only available on the Enterprise Edition, and this basically what it does is acts another layer on the Corda node before going to the internet. So actually, you provide what we call a firewall bridge within the network that actually is capable of accepting and filtering incoming and outgoing connections from within the Corda node. And basically, this acts like a well, it's a part of the firewall. And also another part, it's called this is the float, which normally works in conjunction with the firewall bridge. The main thing is like the firewall float. You put it on the DMZ, basically on the demilitarized zone of your networks, such that it actually protects and acts as the first layer of all incoming connections from the internet. That is from the nodes that actually participate on the Corda network, but also malicious intents from other non-Corda participants, such API calls or hackers trying to access to your Corda systems. But actually, the float acts as the first layer to protect it. Then the firewall acts as a second layer, and then actually to the node. So actually, when a third-party node wants to connect to your node for starting a new flow within a Corda app, actually has to pass two jump sections, one on the DNZ managed by the Corda firewall, also another one with a firewall bridge, and then actually to the node. And also that node, when you integrate it with your business, on your on-premises or on your cloud network, actually this Corda node can be connected to a messaging storage. Other core systems that actually need integration with this Corda node on the business use case. And obviously, you need to store your ledger data. So actually, this is all what you need. Okay, so this is actually like the main use cases, like how on a high level can look like. But normally, this happens when you actually try to install more than one node. So as you normally said on business enterprises, you might not only need to install one node, but actually to enable high availability, you might need to install two nodes in order to have high availability on your blockchain use case. And then when this happens, normally you have to multiply everything by 2 or by whatever the nodes that you actually need. And so the float service that actually on the firewall, that this is the same float that actually we saw in the previous diagram. The float actually becomes a cluster of floats that actually take more than one, because you enable high availability also on that one. But not only the float, you need to available high availability, like more than one component at the same time. You actually also need the bridge to handle more connections, and also you have to enable high availability. This all, what you do about this is just to not enable a single point of failure that actually can compromise all the whole architecture or all the whole systems that you're mounting. And if things were not easy enough, then the bridge also needs a Zookeeper cluster, which actually coordinates all the bridge clusters. But normally installing a Zookeeper is actually pretty complicated, and also it's a very operative intensive. And so also by this, normally with that, once you have installed all of that, you can actually have some hot codes architecture of nodes that then you can mostly safely say that your your Corda network is very highly available, but also very complicated. So this is what huge bit overview of what actually sets like of all the applications that needed on the blockchain on the Corda network. So one of the main difficulties that we have in these enterprise blockchains is like when you're dealing with this within the enterprise. The first of all that you actually need is with the network complexity. Basically, all the enterprise blockchains, I'm not talking about only Corda, but also, for example, Hyperledger Fabric, which is also one of the other blockchain protocols that we are embracing in Allianz. Normally, they use a set of networking protocols different from the standard web apps. We are not mainly using HTTP or HTTPS. We are using other protocols such as AMQP, gRPC, RPC, which normally need special evaluations. Normally, this is not like the default protocols enabled within the enterprise networks and infrastructure. And well, and also another difficulty added is like blockchains are based on distributed architectures, which normally increases the complexity of the solution. So that leads to quite a lot of complexities that actually needs to be dealt within the team that actually is leading this the implementation of these blockchain nodes. Another issue that challenge that we see is like the security and privacy concerns. Within all layers, there's still a lot of misconception coming from the public blockchain cases, because everyone knows about Ethereum and Bitcoin, but mostly nobody knows about Corda and Hyperledger Fabric and such. They are quite a bit different networks. The public blockchains normally offer pseudonymity over identity or broadcasting information over selective disclosure of information through, of all the participants. And because of that, normally this raises a lot of data privacy concerns within the stakeholders or the project embracers, and normally in reluctances in security and standards. And also another issue that we saw is like the scarce support for blockchain enterprises. When you reach implementation stage, normally there's a lack of support within the same enterprise or even from the external partners. There is not few companies that still know with a high level of confidence how these enterprises blockchains really work. Over the years, there is more companies that are offering services about that, but there is obviously, because blockchain for the enterprise is still new in this scene, so actually this can take a little bit more about that. When you're facing this, mainly it can produce a delay on implementation, or also a lot of thing that you take most into account of is that actually can create important technical debts that you might need to also take care of. And even a building POC, for example, what you see requires lots of patience. So actually, this is some image from what my main blockchain use case, all the services that you need to use. So actually, you need compute power, basically instances of VMs that actually hold your blockchain infrastructure. But obviously, you need to present your blockchain might be operable through an API gate, through APIs. Then you can need to provide an API gateway that power your blockchain apps. The identity is also a new concern for that. So you might need to provide a cloud an HMS such that it manages your blockchain keys if you need it. Normally, there is a new trend within that the blockchain can use IoT with IoT devices. So you might also need to use IoT managed services for your own services that needs to connect with your blockchain. Off-chain database is also very important. You might need to take it like to another off-chain data storage for high availability, and also or another databases that take this. And also there is also a new trend about joining AI, artificial intelligence with blockchain, that actually you might need to perform some analytics and gain insights from your blockchain in normally near time, so might actually also be useful. And finally, because blockchain is normally an event-based architecture, you might need also to leverage some events programming to the blockchain by using message queues or whatever. So my recommendations about how can, while you're facing an implementation on Corda node, but actually basically this applies when everything like basically on the enterprise, or when you're dealing enterprise in the blockchain networks within the enterprise. Basically, one of the main recommendations, like try to leverage cloud providers. Normally the cloud providers, because they're actually also new with this, but tend to fit more. And because, as we said on the previous image, there is lots of services that are required to start a blockchain use case. Normally, cloud providers can ease the production readiness of these use cases and kind of decrease a little bit the implementation complexity. Normally, the new enterprise blockchains such as Corda and Hyperledger Fabric are very cloud-friendly and integrate very easily with the cloud providers. And so leveraging cloud providers can be helpful a lot. Also, try to seek support. As we said about blockchain providers are still scarce, but as the time goes by, providers and partners ramping up on blockchain skills. But try to look for official support and features from official providers. Like, for example, if you're using Corda, if you need support, you can go with the Corda Enterprise license from R3, and actually R3 will provide support and help with whatever the issues that you're facing on your enterprise blockchain installation. And finally, and I will say, well, this is kind of like as a trend within the technology, but obviously and this is very adequate, is like adopt an agile mindset. Blockchain technologies are kind of new, but I'm also implementing more features continuously. But so for that, adapt these continuous changes by taking advantage of Scrum methodologies and also the DevOps culture. By this way, you can adapt to the new changes and the new features that the blockchains are adding every time, so you can adapt quickly. So basically, this is like my recommendations that I will say when you're dealing with the implementing a Corda node. And that will be all. Thanks everyone for listening to me. And actually, we can have the Q&A already. Sakir is asking for, is it possible to set up our own network map service locally? I think it is possible. The main problem is like when you're setting up your own NMS, network map service, you might only map your own services, but you actually, the main use for the network map is actually other nodes knowing where is your legal entity mapping to the Corda node. So actually, for taking the most advantage of the NMS, you need to share with other companies. But if the question is like hosting, yes, you can host it. But Corda network does it for you, such that you can actually get quickly onboarded on the Corda network, and you can get the view of all the participants of the network that are already onboarded. So you just connect to the network map service, and then you get the view of all the participants within the network. Yeah. So Nambala asks, who is the competitor, I think, for Corda R3? So the competitor, I would say, the main one will be Hyperledger Fabric. When we're talking about, because the main domain that Corda is talking about is about enterprise blockchains. So normally this is a private blockchains that we are talking about. Another one that's very prominent, and we also use it in Allianz technology, is Hyperledger Fabric, which is like Corda is focused on financial services, industries like finance, banking, and insurance. But Hyperledger Fabric tries to make it sector agnostic for all the blockchains. So actually, this will be the main competitor. The other one is actually pretty known. It's Quorum, like it's like a permissioned implementation of Ethereum, but yes, it's also an important one. Is third-party CA can be used locally? For that, I do not know, because we haven't had this need for now, so I cannot help. But I think you can, but I don't think it. But I cannot say if it's that possible. So another question is: do you think this particular technology will be massively adopted for finance insurance companies? I think it is. Basically, as I said, Corda Enterprise is is basically dealing with a lot of the payments sector, but also, as we said, for the big reinsurance contracts are also built on Corda. So I'm actually seeing a lot of initiatives, and also it's taking quite a very important step through the central bank digital currencies, and Corda is taking a big steps on this. So we will see maybe a lot of news and very important news of what Corda is doing right now. Another question is, you mentioned about using IoT devices. How lightweight is Corda apps? Corda nodes are based in Java, and Java is not very lightweight itself, but the Corda apps can be quite lightweight. Yeah. Will high privacy protocols slow the transmission speed of transactions? Can be, but since I have no experience with dealing with IoT data, I don't know if maybe Corda is like the most ideal, depending on the use case. Obviously, you have to analyze your use case perfectly. But if you need very speed, Corda is capable of dealing with a lot of transactions per second, but always need to try to know what is the transactions per second that actually need your business use case, and actually Corda can cope with that. Another question is, can we change blocks in between, and does it affect Corda node as well? So Corda is not what we call a complete blockchain, because actually Corda does not generate blocks. Corda is a DLT, so actually the information that is moved is through flows, and the flows is actually what orchestrates the data with going with your partner, with the counterparty that you're actually transmitting. But the data is updated using the flows, not with blocks. So actually, you cannot do that. The flows actually tend to orchestrate and coordinate all the connections between the nodes, and also with the notaries, which actually helps you prevent double spending issues on the network. Also, is like, if we are planning to set up a local Corda network for a business, what are the things to be taken care of? So most of the, we will mainly need to define what means by local, but if it takes on the internet with within the same business, within the same enterprise, you might not need lots of firewalls. You might, because obviously the network should be already trusted. You're not going to the public internet, for example. But mostly, all of what I explained here can be applied also to the local environment, if that's actually what you need. Obviously, adapt and also seek if Corda Enterprise suits your needs on your use case that you try to deal with. Is Corda suitable for supply chain? So I do not know exactly if it's very suitable. So the main focus that R3, the company that's behind Corda, but basically the Corda product is basically focused on financial institutions, such as insurance and banking institutions. For supply chain, I haven't. There is some reinsurance contract, like for example, InsureWave, that actually is taking insurance use case within shipping trade in the industry, but actually they are dealing with the contracts that are behind this shipping business. So actually, if it needs the Corda within the supply chain itself, I don't think it's like the best network that should take the blockchain that should take care of. Maybe you will need to maybe look at Hyperledger Fabric or some other initiative within the supply chain.
One last question, Pau, like how to write a Corda smart contract?
Actually, well, for that, I think I can help you, but actually go with the official Corda documentation, which I will try to share a link with that. And actually, within that, there is, let me share with you. I will post it in the link. Let me. So basically, go to the official documentation of Corda. Actually, there's lots of examples of how to write Corda apps on a smart contract. Also, to set up a quick note on the local environment. But going with the official documentation it should be enough as a starting point.
Thank you, Pau. Thank you so much for the session.
Yeah, thank you, everyone.